Thank you for downloading this week's edition of the Saturday Drop-In from Highland Hospital Radio. It's Tom Nelson here, no Shannon again, skiving once more. But the good thing is, I get one of my favourite guest hosts to have in the studio.
I've loved it, Tom. It's a great programme.
Terry Henderson's
it's so
here. Hello,
different.
Terry.
Yeah, and there's lots of talking, which I'm quite fond of.
Indeed. Well, I think you and I both share that. I mean, it's nice. We like playing music in our shows because you do your show on a Wednesday, which is 2 in a row. I used to do the chart show, and it was mostly about the music, but you gave a wee bit of information about the songs. But when we do the Saturday Drop-In, it's more about, well, we have interviews. So we've got a lovely interview coming up. Who's the interview with today?
Yeah, so the interview's with Kate Henderson, who directed and wrote a play called The Grants of Glen Grant, which is going to be part of the Spirit of Speyside Whisky Festival. And that is happening at the end of April. So she was on and talked all about the play. It's a true story. Mm-hmm. It's the story of the family that created the Glen Grant brand and the Glen Grant distillery. And I think you did mention, Tom, other whiskies are available.
Whiskies are available,
I think we had to
and,
say
and,
that. There's a lot of references.
Drink responsibly as well.
Yes. And other drinks are available.
Other drink, yeah,
you
indeed,
get 0% gin for some reason.
That's a weird one. Go. Yeah. We've also, within that, there's some interviews with the cast as well. The usual features that you like. We've got Guest of the Year, that'll be coming up in just a moment's time. We've also got Beat Detective. Now, this or that this week. Terry and I like a wee battle against each other, and we like to defend our generations. So I was defending the 90s and Terry was looking after the 60s. Unfortunately, because it's the podcast, we can't do that because it's all music.
And you missed some great
There
tracks.
were some good songs, yeah.
Great songs.
But the good thing is, because we know that you like a quiz as well, we're going to give you a teaser question that relates to one of the answers, because as you'll find out, I made a mistake and played a song from the 70s instead of the 60s.
It's a good song to make a mistake.
And you got the question right anyway.
And I don't really want to bring to your attention that Tom made a mistake, but I am going to mention it because the name of the song was Diamonds and Rust, Joan Baez. Now, she's very much in the news just now because she features in the brand new film about Bob Dylan, taking Bob Dylan up to about 1966. If you haven't seen that film, you've certainly heard of it. You've got to go and see it. It is a superb film, even if you're not a huge Bob Dylan fan. So my question, I've got actually about 4 questions. So my first question is, who plays Joan Baez in that very film? The film is part of a line of Bob Dylan's song Like a Rolling Stone. So what is the name of the film? And also related to that, about 20 years ago, Martin Scorsese made a documentary, a 4-hour documentary all about Bob Dylan. And he also used a line from the song Like a Rolling Stone. What was the name of that documentary? And it was on the telly very, very recently. And I suppose for a 4th question, who played Bob Dylan amazingly in the film of that name that I haven't given you?
So there you go. There's some teaser questions for you to think about whilst you enjoy this week's Saturday Drop-In. That is The Wanted. I'm glad you came here on Highland Hospital Radio. Very good afternoon to you and welcome along to your Saturday Drop-In. It's just gone 3.5 minutes past 12, live on your Saturday. It's the 22nd of March. Tom Nelson here with you and joining me, no Shannon again, skiving once more, but I'm delighted to say that I have a wonderful, amazing guest host.
Who's that?
Well,
there's somebody else coming in the room.
I thought it was Helen again, but that was last week. Terry Henderson's here. Terry, how are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for inviting me back. I thought after the last time you would never have me back again.
There was a minor issue, but
right, we're not talking about that.
We're not talking about. You were set up as far as that.
I was set up. Thank you, Tom.
I will defend you all the way.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, if you're of a nervous disposition, you might want to be careful every time. Every time Terry's listening, I've got the bleep button here ready to go just in case.
Yeah. It's just a problem. I think it's a problem I have in the middle of the day because I'm used to doing a program at night. So during the day, the Tourette's kind of kicks in. It's a very different building because when we come in on a Saturday, well, usually we always used to do evening shows. You still do on a Wednesday. I used to do Fridays. I did Sundays.
and the hospital was always empty.
Mm-hmm.
But it's nice when you come in on a Saturday and there's loads of life around. The cafe's open.
Yeah, and you've got the door wide open. I'm looking out onto the corridor. The lunch smells are wafting into the studio. I'll tell you, you're lucky, you guys upstairs, if you're in one of the wards. I think it could be mince and tatties.
Is it mince and tatties? Oh, I don't know.
Imagine if you got white pudding in it as well.
Oh.
Do you? Is that not a...
I don't know. I'm not a white pudding person. No.
Well, your white puddings down your neck of the woods are completely different from ours.
Well, there you go.
Well, ours are mealy puddings. I don't know what your white puddings are made of.
I don't know. I wouldn't like to ask what's in a white pudding. I might never go back to the chippy again.
Just don't ask about black pudding.
No, let's no.
Yeah. So why did we lead to white puddings?
I don't know, but you're smelling it.
Well, I can't. Yeah, there's a nice smell coming from the corridor.
See, that's why we like the Saturday drop-in, because whoever's in the guest side, you get to see what's going on in the world,
and
who's coming and going, and you wave at them, and you really do scare them when you wave at them.
They do, because they run away. I've just scared one away just now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But if you're in Raigmore, you are welcome to pop down and see us. But even if you're not in Raigmore, wherever you're listening, you can get in touch with us by emailing studio@hhr.scot. Check us out on social media as well, your Facebook, your Instagram. No BlueSky this week. Right, and the reason is Shannon's still not shared the password with me. She's closely guarding access to the all-new super-duper social media BlueSky.
I've never heard. What is it?
It's
a mystery.
It's a mystery.
Okay, but Shannon will
solve
that next week.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
See, she's young.
She knows these things.
And she's a generation from me.
Now I'm wondering, have you seen? Because she's got us on TikTok as well now.
See, I don't know that either.
There you go, Terry.
Yeah.
So she's got us on TikTok, but and the first thing she posted there got everybody upset because I said something that really upset a certain community. I won't repeat it because we've already talked about it. I'll tell you off air when I play the next song.
Yeah.
I'll tell you all about it. I didn't want to annoy them again. Goodness. But coming up on today's show, we've got our usual feature. So we've got Guess the Year coming up in just a few moments' time, about 10 minutes maybe, for Guess the Year. Terry Henderson, you're getting to play along because you haven't seen what the year is. You've just read some of the clues that are coming up so far.
You've just handed me the clues.
You're
I'm having a look through that.
He's having a look.
Now. Yeah.
So you can get involved with us with that. At the end of the show, we have got Beat Detective. So if you like cryptic clues, well, coming up at the end, the computer picks the last song for us. And then what we do is we take that song and we come up with a cryptic clue for you to try and figure out what the last song of the show is going to be. So that's coming up later on today. Right sandwiched in the middle, because Terry's here, Terry is the king of the quizzes. He's the Quizmaster General of both the annual quiz. He does his Wednesday wee quizzes when he's not got the studio full of guests. And of course, during the lockdown, he was the Hospital Radio quiz extraordinaire. You've insisted on doing something to me, effectively. What you got planned?
Well, you're a 90s guy.
Yes,
Tom.
I like the 90s, yes.
Being a young person. So I have done 10 intros from you from the 90s.
Mm-hmm,
and
yes.
I think in exchange, have you done the same to me?
That's exactly what it is. So I've got 10 intros from the 60s. So we're going to challenge each other to see if you have the better knowledge of the 60s versus my knowledge of the 90s.
Yeah.
And from that, we can sort of try and decide which is the best decade. Was it the 60s? Was it the 90s?
Well, put it like this. When I put yours together and then I listened to it this morning, I thought I would never hope. I wouldn't know one of the 90s intros.
So that doesn't bode well for me,
really.
does it?
well, put it like this. When you played the ones that you've done for me, would you be able to tell them?
Oh, yeah, see, this is the difference, of course.
Maybe I've gone a bit too difficult.
I think, have you gone too far for this?
Right.
See, the thing is, I was brought up predominantly, my grandparents, spent a lot of time with my grandparents growing up.
Okay.
And I spent summer holidays going down to Devon in a Lada Riva.
Nice.
C-Reg Ladder C123 CSF.
Right.
And I would have enjoyed my granddad's mixtape collections from 50s and 60s.
Wow.
Country. He loved country as well.
Okay.
So this was all I heard. And of course, back in late 80s, early 90s, when I would have been going down in there, I don't think it was all motorway. I think the M74 was still the A74. So whatever the journey was to Devon now, at least I had on another 5 hours.
And it would have taken days and 15 flasks. And how many flasks did you have?
I think we did it in one go. And it was slightly younger. As he got older, we did have a couple of stop-offs. Well, it was straight in the night in maybe Birmingham or something to split the journey up.
Okay.
But this is only from Livingston as well, where I was.
But listen, when I first moved down to Edinburgh and me and my wife used to come up here, it used to be 2 flasks. journey.
A two-flasker,
from
was it?
Edinburgh up to, and then we moved to south of London, and that journey was epic. Going from Southampton to Rothes. That was totally. Well, we ran out of flasks.
Well, see, the other thing, that sounds like the sound of a play. Southampton to Rothes. So as well as our 60s versus 90s, we're going to be talking plays about 12:30 because you've got a guest coming on.
We have, yeah. We've got the one and only Kate Henderson, who has written a play in conjunction with the Spirit of Speyside Whisky Festival, which is about to start at the end of April. And it's a huge event. You've heard of the Festival Fringe in Edinburgh. Do you know, Tom, there is 500 events about to take place in Speyside.
Well, it's funny because you showed me the website there and I had to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page to get to the play that's coming up. So it just shows how many things are taking place. It must be massive.
It's incredible, and people from all over the world flock to this thing. And probably a lot of locals, are not aware of it, especially in the Inverness area. They'll know about it in maybe Speyside area, but not so much here. But there's events, and there's one that will be right up your street, and I'll save that when I'm talking about it at 12:30.
Okay.
I think it'll be one that you'd definitely be interested in. But I would say, if you're ever going to the Spirit of Speyside Whisky Festival, befriend somebody that's teetotal.
You need a
that is your
driver,
and they've got a car,
and that's your saviour, isn't it? That's the one who's going to dig you out of a hole.
Somebody that just likes driving folk around,
So there we go. That's what you've got coming up between now and 2:00 this afternoon. So just sit back, relax, wherever it is you're listening. Feel free to get in touch with us and let us know. studio@hhr.scot. We will have something from Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Great. We'll
have a wee bit of important information, and then we're going to go into Guess the Year. So stay tuned to your Saturday drop-in. That's Fiona Lewis and Bleeding Love here on Highland Hospital Radio as part of Guess the Year. That would be the second release from her debut album Spirit. The first release being her winning song, A Moment Like This, from the third series of The X Factor. But the big question is, what was the year? Terry, what was happening at the movies?
Right, so I'm just looking through these movies, Tom. I think I've seen one of them. Okay. Anyway, the fifth highest grossing movie in the UK in this particular year, Spider-Man 3. It only made 33.54 million.
Goodness.
So drop in the ocean.
Wouldn't they get out of bed for that?
Exactly. And number 4 was the Simpsons movie. Means nothing to me.
No, you never watched the Simpsons movie?
I mean, no. Yeah, I wouldn't even watch the TV programme, to tell you the truth.
Aware of it,
anyway. I'm definitely aware of it, yeah. Number 3, Shrek the Third. I would probably like that. 38.6.
I never knew there was a 3. I never knew there was a... Certainly a first and a second, but no.
Yeah, if I turn it on, I would just think it's the same old movie, so I wouldn't know. Because he's green, isn't he?
That's the one. That's him.
That's the only one I would know.
That's him.
The one I probably have seen at number 2 was Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. And that made a whopping 42.23 million at the box office. But it wasn't the highest one.
Nope.
Because the highest one, and I think the clue is in the background music there, even though that would mean nothing to me.
Well, we can discuss it once we say what it is.
Is it John Williams?
That is John Williams.
Okay.
He would have done the original score.
And we're talking Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, 49.42 million, so just short of 50 million.
Now here's the thing, Terry. Out of all the Harry Potter films, which number was that? The Order of the Phoenix. Have a guess. First, second,
third.
It was the 5th movie.
Was it?
And let me tell you this, I had to look it up because I'm no Harry Potter person, I'm afraid.
No idea at all. I know there's going to be a Harry Potter musical, isn't there?
Or
is it already?
I think there might already be.
Okay, there's Harry Potter world everywhere, so yeah.
So that was at the movies. In TV, in this year, it was the first time in the US, certainly, it may have come over a wee bit later to us, that we saw The Big Bang Theory. In the UK, the TV debuts were Benidorm, which I don't think I've ever seen either, to be honest.
I think I've seen maybe one,
Gavin and Stacey, and medical comedy drama type thing, Skins.
No, I don't know that.
In Scotland, we saw the series Dear Green Place, starring Chewin' the Fat and Still Game stars Paul Riley and Ford Kiernan.
Right, I love both of them, but I don't know Dear Green Place.
I think it did 2 series, and it didn't do so well. Obviously, on the back of Chewin' the Fat and Still Game, it was after the 2 main actors in that had sort of split and had a wee break.
Yeah.
And Dear Green Place, it was based on, I think it was like gardeners within the where the People's Palace is in Glasgow.
Is it
it's that park, isn't it?
Unless it's written down, Tom. Don't ask
I know. I should have.
Glasgow Green.
Glasgow Green.
Yes.
No,
is it? Well, it sounds like
somewhere
a Deer
like
Green
that.
place.
It must have been, surely.
Yeah.
So that was what we were watching on TV. Anybody born this year, Terry?
Right. So darts professional Luke Littler, the youngest PDC world champion, and if you wonder what PDC stands for,
because we did.
I just asked Tom to look it up. Professional Darts Corporation. Who would know that? It doesn't matter. He is a phenomenon, Luke Littler, and he's probably the one that's going to help me come up with the year, because I'm still trying to work it out. Lamine Yamal, a footballer for Barcelona and Spain, was born in this particular year. And you did kind of tell us an interesting story there, Tom, about the fact that if the Euros had gone to penalties in a particular game...
Yes.
Because of his age at that time.
Which is a clue, yeah.
There's another clue. He wouldn't have been able to take a penalty.
Yeah, if it had gone on after 11 o'clock in Germany, because of this person's age, it prohibited them because of their labour laws that they couldn't continue in the game conceivably. It never came to pass.
Right.
I'm trying to think. Spain won the Euros last year.
Yeah.
Who was it that lost? Who was it that were the runners-up in that year? It wasn't England, was it? England didn't get beat again.
I think it was England.
Goodness, that is a terrible shame.
Yes.
Speaking of sport, if you're a Highland League fan, you'll get the year, because this was the year that Keith took the Highland Football League on goal difference after finishing level on points with Inverurie Locos.
Oh, right, and we're heading through there at 12:30.
Indeed, we are. That area, yes. The Women's Open Golf takes place for the 31st time. However, this was the first time that the Women's Open was ever held at the Old Course St Andrews. Lorena Ochoa lifted the title. The British Grand Prix is won by Kimi Räikkönen, and here in the Highlands, the Snowman Rally is won by Mike Faulkner and Peter Foy and their Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 6.
And no Snowman Rally this year,
was there? It's been a tough time for the Snowman Rally, I know that. Final clue, in terms of sport, the Scottish League Cup final took place on the 18th of March this year and saw Hibs defeat Kilmarnock 5-1. But the big question, of course, is, what was that year? We've got one more song coming up now, which is going to give it away, I'm sure. This was the first number one of the year. It's going to spend 5 weeks at the top of the UK charts. The opening single to the album, Life in Cartoon Motion. Here's Mika and Grace Kelly. Grace Kelly from Mika or Micah, who knows? But we've been playing Guess the Year. What year did that come from? Well, we've had in the studio, Terry, you've written down a guess.
Yeah.
So what's your guess?
Well, the only thing I could really latch on to was the Luke Littler, because I always remember when he was winning it, he couldn't even have a celebratory drink because he wasn't old enough.
Correct.
So I knew that he turned 18. And I thought it was the beginning of this year, but I probably have now found that it could be the end of last year. So I have gone for 2007. If I've done my sums, I took 2025 minus 18, and I came up with 2007.
I mean, your numbers are not in dispute, because that is, if you take 2025 and take 18, that's the answer. Henry Nelson is here. So Henry is my son, and he comes in from time to time.
I think he's right.
If ever, there's my wife has to go and do her volunteering stuff, Henry has to come in with me. Now, here's the thing, Terry, right? Henry came in with a bit of paper and he's written down 2008. And he says to me, I know it is because I know when Lamine Yamal was born.
Yeah.
But I suspect there's been some extra Googling happening out in the office, and he's come in and I'm going to show you this bit of paper.
I didn't know Googling was allowed.
Well, exactly. And he's scrubbed out 2008. So what are you going for now, Henry? He's going for 2007.
Why?
The only reason I knew because I saw the song on that computer.
Now here's the thing. So here in the studio, I was playing Grace Kelly by Mika, and we get information because you're spoiling some of the big secrets of radio here.
So you knew as well.
I didn't actually even look at the screen. I never even realised that.
This is what's
I only
funny.
work here.
So it comes up here and it gives us some interesting facts about the music. So whilst the songs are playing, it shows you what year the song came out so that the DJ would know. And here's the funny thing. Henry's looked over my shoulder and seen it on my computer.
Henry.
So he knows. But what's even funnier, isn't it, Henry, is that Terry's sitting opposite and he can see the exact same
and I
screen.
didn't even look. So Scouts honour Henry, I didn't cheat.
Well,
I'm just saying.
This is controversial here, but because you're right, you do get one of these. You do get a wee cheer.
Oh.
A wee cheer. However, I think there is some skullduggery here.
Not from my part.
So you're getting one of these as well.
Henry, that boo was for you, and the cheer was for me, because I did it properly.
Wow.
Yeah, you just done your sums.
Yeah, well,
2025 minus 18.
You thought Lamal was born in 2008, didn't you? That was what Henry was basing it on.
Oh, well, there you go.
Well, but you'll know that now. Well, anyway, that was Guesty. I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did here in the studio. Now, we're going to go into a wee song, which is going to lead us into our interview. Coming up after this, all going well, we're going to connect up live through to Morayshire to speak to Kate Henderson about the play The Grants of Glen Grant, which is coming up after this aptly chosen song. So we've got some Thin Lizzy there and Whiskey in the Jar. And that leads us nicely into what we're going to talk about next. So who have we got on the line, Terry?
Well, yeah, we are going to be speaking to Kate Henderson in a minute, because the Spirit of Speyside Whisky Festival is about to start, Tom, at the end of April, 30th of April. So, I mean, it is a worldwide thing. It's a huge event. And as I said at the beginning of the show, you've got things like the Edinburgh Fringe, which has got loads and loads of performances. There's 500 events that are going to be happening during the Spirit of Speyside Whisky Festival. And I'm just looking at this, Tom. It's actually launched back in 1999, just looking at their official website here, attracting visitors from far and wide who share a passion for Scotland's national drink. And some of the things that are on, there's such a variety of things. Ones that hit me that I thought you'd be interested in, Tom, is a taster dram on the train from Dufton Station.
Trust you to find a train-related thing for me.
Well, train, because Tom is, that's his job related to trains. So, and I was actually born in Dufton as well. So just to throw that in, but it's not about me. There's also an event where you can go and taste whiskey and ice cream. They've matched certain ice creams to certain whiskies. You can go to the Spirit of Speyside Whisky School for £880. But on the other end, you can go for breakfast at Johnson's Woolen Mill, for a lot less. And so there's a lot of events that there is something for everybody. And one of the events that is about to take place is the Grants of Glen Grant, which is a brand new musical play telling the extraordinary story of the Grants of Glen Grant and the pioneering family behind the famous Glen Grant distillery. Now, she's got many names. She is known as Cangy by many, and if we're going down the formal route, it's Kathleen, but that's kind of something like your headmaster would say, or your mother if you were in trouble. But let's not be so formal, and we're just going to welcome Kate Henderson, who wrote and is directing this play. Are you there, Kate?
I am indeed, Terry. Hello.
Hello, and it is a bit strange me calling you Kate, but I'll try and keep it up. But I might fall in to Cangy now and again. So tell us all about what this play is about. Tell us the story, roughly.
Well, as you said, it is about the Grant family, who were founders of Glen Grant Distillery in Rothes. My hometown, and also yours, Terry.
Exactly, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's quite special. It is, as you said, an extraordinary story. And we go back to 1821, where the two Grant brothers, John and James, lived in a family farm in Ballindalloch, and they were heavily involved in the illicit side of distilling.
Which was quite quite rife in these parts as well, I've got to say.
Yes, that part of the world is quite remote, and there was a lot of illicit whiskey being made there. So the Grant brothers, they bought and sold grain, but they also bought and sold the whiskey that was being made, and would go as far afield to Edinburgh. They used to go by horse and cart, take the whiskey down to Edinburgh, where seemingly the king was his favourite tipple was the illicit whiskey frae Glenlivet.
Yes.
There you go. So that's how they started. But then in 1840, they went into the legal side of whiskey distilling, and they built a new distillery in Rothes, Glen Grant Distillery, and they moved in 1840.
Right. But the play itself actually starts when it was illicit.
Yeah, we go back to 1821.
Okay, right. And then we move on to when it actually becomes like that.
Yes, where it's legitimate. And the next part that we actually move on to is 1858, where there was a local holiday in Rothes that day because the Rothes railway station opened.
Oh, gee. Yeah, that was a big deal. That was a big deal for the area, wasn't it?
Huge, and especially for Glen Grant, of course, because it meant that they could now ship the whiskey by train instead of horse and cart, as it was before. And the driving force behind that were the two Grant brothers, James and John, because they were both major shareholders in the Murrayshire Railway Company. So they were the driving force behind that. But then, of course, it did suit them to have the railway station there.
Of course, yeah.
So that was 1858, and the two brothers, I should say that John, the older brother, was the managing partner, and the other younger brother, James, was a banker in Elgin. Who was also provost in Elgin for 14 years.
I mean, they were obviously quite a prominent family, when you think of all the things they were involved in back then.
Yes, they were. And they were very generous benefactors to the area as well. I have to say.
Right. So that kind of covers the first half of the play, doesn't it? Because it goes from the illicit still to the formation of Glen Grant and the railway and everything, and that is all part of the play with music as well, of course.
Of course, yes. My husband Colin, your brother, wrote the music. It's all original music, and we have one Strathspey reel that was written by Scott Skinner and given to James Grant Jr., who was known as the Major, and he was presented with this reel by Scott Skinner, and it was entitled Glen Grant. Wow. So we're going to be playing that as well. We've got a local lady, Myrtle Scott, who's a lovely fiddle player, and she will be performing that.
Yeah, and we should say, Kai, if we could just come away from it and talk about the pantomime you wrote at the end of last year, and she brought the house down, didn't she, Myrtle?
Myrtle was a natural, yes. I have to say, Myrtle is in her 80s, and superb. What a talent she's got, and she's magic. She's such a lovely lady.
And I had to be so nasty to her because I was Simon Cowell. It was Britain's Got Talent, and I had to say, get that old lady off the stage. She's absolutely, and I had to be so horrible to her and everything, and that was great because the audience loved it, and they were cheering and booing me and everything like that. So I think that just happened unexpectedly, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yes,
but Myrtle was having a ball.
Oh, she loved it. I'm so glad you've got her back doing this, and just such a great idea because it's called Glen Grant. So yeah, very fitting. So then, what happens after that then? So as far as the play's concerned.
Okay, so we move on now to 1900. We've missed it a few years, but I should say James Grant Sr., he died in 1931. His brother had died a couple of years previously. And so it was James' son, James Jr., who took over the management of the distillery. And that was in 1931. Okay. And that's who we know as the Major. He was known as the Major because he was Major in the Rothes Rifle Corps.
Yeah.
He was quite a character, was the Major. he used to go on trips to India and Africa on safari. He was quite an innovator as well. The Glen Grant was the first industrial premises in this part of the world to have electricity. He was one of the first to have a motor car. Oh, and he loved trains as well, just like his uncle before him.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. So anyway, we opened a party at Glen Grant House. It was a beautiful baronial mansion house. A beautiful house. Sadly now no longer there. But yeah, we have a party and drink lots of Glen Grant whiskey.
Yeah, of course.
And from there, we move on to the last scene. And this is in 1978. And we are in the hands of the Major's grandson, Douglas McKessock, who took over when when his grandfather died. Douglas took over. And we start again in 1978, as I said. And sadly, Douglas McKessock has decided he must sell up in order to protect the distillery and keep it safe, because it was a huge business by then, multi-million business.
Yeah.
And it was bought over by Seagram's, who was a Canadian firm. And so this was the day that Major McKessock retired. And that was a sad day for everybody. He was a very, very well respected and loved, dare I say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's quite a small cast, Guy. You don't have there's not a lot of people in it. And I went along to rehearsals a couple of weeks ago and spoke to some of them. And we're going to listen to the one I did with Morven. And the interesting thing, well, you tell us about Morven because it's great.
Well, Morven's father was Ernie Sherritt, was manager at Glen Grant, and Morven agreed. I asked him if he would play the part of his father, and I was amazed when he said that he would. And so, it's quite special that he's playing the part of his own father.
Absolutely. Let's hear Morven. So now I've been joined by one of the cast. It's Morven Sherritt. So Morven, how's it going? And tell us all about the character you're playing. Or characters, should I say.
Thanks, Derry. Yeah, well, I'm a Rothish loon, ironically, and when I got roped into this by Kathleen, she asked me to play one part, and that was going to be that of my father. My dad had been distillery manager at Glen Grant from about 64, I think it was, through to 1983. So he was there at the crux of the time that the play refers to. So I went to the first rehearsal, and that went relatively well. But I actually left the first rehearsal with two parts. So I've ended up now being the old father of John and James Grant when they were farming in the Ballindalloch area, and also my father in the latter part of the play.
And I should say, Morven, that you're actually playing my father.
Well, that's very true. Yes, indeed, I am. I think we're going to have to need a wee bit of makeup to make that work.
I've booked my Botox session.
I'm going the other way.
Great. Thanks, Morven.
Cheers, thanks, Derek.
Oh, and then, of course, we've got Kathy Kangi. Tell us about Kathy. She's famous for other things. She's a ballroom dancer and everything, isn't she?
She is. She's won competitions at national level.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's a fantastic dancer. And as you know, she was in her panto. She was the Pussycat.
She was. We won't say anything about that because that'll get me into trouble again. Yeah. So let's hear what Kathy had to say. Yeah. So I've been joined by another cast member. It's Kathy McGrath Gunn. So Kathy, tell us all about the characters you're playing in the play.
Hi, well, I'm starting off in the first scene as mother, and I'm mother of James and John Grant.
In fact, you're actually my mother.
That's right, Terry. I am your mother.
Yeah.
Yes. And then I go on to then become James, who was my son at the beginning. I then become his wife, Fanny. So I'm going to be his second wife.
So quite a few costume changes then, is there?
Yes, I go from being the farmer or the farmer's wife to being the glamorous wife of the Major Grant himself.
Right. And are you enjoying the whole thing?
Oh, yes, it's good fun. Well, you know, we've had our moments, but yes, it's good fun, and I just hope we do Glen Grant proud.
Oh, that's Kathy as well. She's doing a grand job, Kangi.
Yes. Yes.
And then
yes, she's super.
And then we've got one. Well, you're so lucky to have Matthew, aren't you?
Oh, so lucky. And I tell you, the timing was just spot on, because last year Matthew just finished, he got a first-class honours degree, let me say, in music. And he took a year out, and this September coming, he's going to the Northern School of Music in Manchester to do his master's degree.
Yeah.
So we were so lucky. The timing could not have been better.
Yeah.
He is such a talented young man.
Oh, he really is. Let's hear what he had to say. So I've been joined by another cast member, and it is Matthew Hamilton. Matthew, he's got a lot of experience in this game, so he's keeping us all right. But tell us, Matthew, all about the characters you're playing.
Yes, so I am playing 3 generations of the Grants, basically, or maybe just about 4 potentially. So I play James Grant at the start, James the Elder, alongside Terry as my brother, and then I then become my own son as James Grant the Younger, the original major of Glen Grant, and then I close out the show as Douglas McKessick. So yes, it's just a really wonderful experience getting to try out all these different characters and such, especially going through the generations of one family, how varied they can be in personalities is so crazy and so much fun to explore. So yeah, loving it.
Well, by the end of the show, you don't look 150 years old, you know. But I suppose that's...
we'll see by the final show how tired I am.
Great. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Terry.
And we should mention as well, Kate, I didn't get a chance to speak to Lachlan, but Lachlan, he is doing a great job, and he is young James, and then becomes, of course, Matthew. It all gets very complicated, but I think if you go along and see it, it all falls into place, doesn't it? But he's doing a great job, Lachlan.
Yeah. But I do worry that folk might have a sort of an identity crisis by the end of this show.
Well, I have. I mean, can I just tell them my particular part of the show? Because, you know, we have been involved in pantos before with you. And I think when you first mentioned this to me, I thought, I don't know about this. But then, see, what they do, Tom, is they invite you through for the night and they give you lots of wine and things like that. And by the end of the night, I'll do anything you like. Yeah, I'll do it. So Kate has been very kind, and I am in every single act. And I did say, I hope people are going to get a very large dram when they come and see this, because they've got to be convinced that I am Matthew's brother. And I have got to be 25 years old. Now, your response to that was makeup can do a lot. I don't know. There's only so much makeup can do. But I do I'm 25 or 26 in one scene, and I've got 2 minutes to become 60-year-old. So I'm going to be rehearsing that tomorrow. I believe we are doing that tomorrow, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
To see if I can transform myself in 2 minutes.
Kanga, this sounds like it's getting into the realms of fantasy, this play.
And Tom will be very interested to know the character. So the first scene, I am young John. And then in the second scene, I'm older John, and I now own the railway company. Tom, see, a railway connection.
I like the railway connections, yes.
Yes, they're really good. The third, they would then have a break, and hopefully they'll get more Glen Grant whiskey, and they'll be more convinced by the third scene. And the third scene, I'm the station master.
Wow.
And I was going to come to you to see if in your museum of antiquities down at Inverness Station you had a station master hat from the 1900s, but Kate wouldn't have it. She's a true director. She said he wouldn't be wearing a hat at a party.
Of course
so I'm not allowed to wear a hat. But one of the people behind the scenes, Sally, is doing a great job as well, isn't she, Kate? She is getting all the costumes and everything and all that. She had was it her grandfather that was a station master down in the south of England, and she turned up with his original hat, and it fitted me fine.
I think it was.
Kate would not have it.
Nope.
I am not allowed to wear this hat, so that's it. Anyway, let's go back to it's very fitting where it's all being performed as well. Kate, tell us, about that.
Of course, yes, the Grant Hall in Rothes. Yeah. And the Grant Hall was given to Rothes by the Major in round about 1900. At that time it was called the Rothes Town Hall.
Yeah.
But it has reverted back to its to the name of the founder, Grant, the Grant Hall. I mean, it's very fitting, isn't it, that we're performing the show in the Grant Hall.
Yeah, and Glen Grant... Oh, sorry, Karen. Go on.
No, just Glen Grant as well, with the whole connection.
Yeah.
It's just so fitting, I think.
Yeah, and they're really getting behind this as well, aren't they?
Oh, I've had so much support for Glen Grant from Greg Stables, the manager. And, well... As you said about, I hope everybody has a big dram before the show starts. Well, they will, because Glen Grant are giving a complimentary dram to everyone when they arrive.
It's amazing value when you think. Because
but not the cast, Terry.
Not the cast. Listen, as far as I'm aware, I am drinking so much whiskey in every scene that I don't know about that. Maybe the final night, okay? The final night we'll just go for it, because... They've already They've already paid for it, so we don't care after that. But we're going to do it on the Wednesday or the Thursday, but we'll wait till the Saturday, yeah?
To be discussed.
Listen, it's great for the town of Rothes. It's just so good. You must be so proud. We're all proud to be behind it, getting behind it. And get your tickets, because it'll be a really entertaining night. The music's great as well. And probably the best way to get tickets, Kate, is maybe to go on to the Spirit of Speyside website.
Probably that's the best way. Although the Grant Hall has a website as well.
Okay.
And you can get the tickets through the Grant Hall in Rothes.
And tell us again when it's all going to take place.
Well, as you said, it's the 30th of April, which is a Wednesday. And then the following night was the Thursday, the 1st of May. And then we have a break on the Friday because there's a ceilidh in the Grant Hall on the Friday. And so the last show is on Saturday, the 3rd of May. And it kicks off, the doors will be open at 7 and we kick off at 7:30.
Right, that's great. So there you go, folks. You read all about it and go on to the Spirit of Speyside website and you'll get more information about the play. But it sounds a great event. So thanks a lot, Kate.
You're very welcome, Terry. And I'll see you on Sunday. Word perfect.
See you then.
See you. And thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Bye.
1 week, bare naked ladies. Don't go searching that on your work laptop. Here on the Highland Hospital Radio. It's a Saturday drop-in. We're into the second hour. If you're listening live, it's 3 minutes past 1 on the 22nd of March. And if you're listening on the podcast, well, you'll need to look at your own clock, I'm afraid, because I don't know when you're listening to it. But I'm glad you are. Thank you very much. If you've just joined us here live, you've just missed our interview with Kate Henderson, who is the writer and director of the Grants of Glen Grant, a play taking place as part of the Spirit of Speyside Festival. As the chair of Highland Hospital Radio, I think I should say that other whiskies are available because
we mentioned Glen Grant with the word.
Glen Grant got a couple of mentions there, once or twice. And there's so much else to see. The Spirit of Speyside. See, I knew I was going to do that. Speyside's a radio station, and we love them. They're a nice commercial local station down in Aviemore. But the Spirit of Speyside Festival, it's not just about going and tasting whiskey. There's a lot of heritage and history, lots to do, and certainly that play in particular, it'll be very interesting. Certainly the illicit element of how it all came to be is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It really is well written, and it is, factual. So it's a bit of social history.
Yeah, so get yourself along to that. Have a look for the Spirit of Speyside. If you just Google that, and if you Google the Grants of Glen Grant, it comes up right away on Google with the old ticket.
And once May comes, I will sell my autograph.
But
goodness. All proceeds to Highland Hospital Radio.
Do you know what? You're not the only person selling stuff here. I was quite happy to plug Helen's book last week as well. So,
all right,
just in case any other presenters felt left out. If any other presenter is writing a book and wanting to sell it, or they're appearing in a play, they can come in and they can plug it there. But we'll have a rule.
Yes.
We'll have a rule about that.
I don't want. Yeah, we should say that. That's definitely right. I didn't know Helen had written a book. She's kept that quiet.
Kept that quiet, hasn't she?
Yes.
Goodness.
Blimey. Well, I'll have to have a word about that.
Well, if you missed last week's show, Helen McPherson was on, and she mentioned it once or twice that she had a book. The thing is, I'm not a very good reader. It's a weakness of mine. I'm not a good reader.
Yeah.
And she gave me a book last year, and she keeps it. Have you read it yet? Have you read it yet? And I hadn't. But because Helen was co-hosting last week, I thought I need to read this book.
She told me that. And you were quoting from the book.
I was quoting from the book.
Yes.
Because the Guest of the Year last week was a direct reference that came out of the book. And the best it is, she didn't get the year.
That does not.
And she went, how did you know that it was the year that the Inverness and District Country and Western Club won Best Club in the UK? That was the year I picked for the Guest of the Year.
Oh, brilliant.
And I said that to her, there's your clue. And she went, I don't know. How do you know that? I says, because I read your book. It's interesting, because if you like country music, you'll love reading that part of the book.
I think the thing I always said about Helen's book is, it's Helen that's written it. It's written, and I can hear Helen. She should do an audio version of it, because it would just, sounds like Helen. And the one bit I always picked up on was when they went on holiday to France, I think it was, they always took free bento pies with them. So I've always remembered that, because that was a big treat back in the late 60s, early 70s. Yeah? Now made by Baxter's.
Is it?
Yes.
Baxter's of the old Morayshire.
Of Speyside. We're back in Speyside again. You think I came from there or something?
I tell you what, the Wave Radio, the hospital and community radio station based out of Dr. Gray's, if they hear about us talking about Speyside so much, they're going to be trouble.
They'll be up here talking about Loch Ness, the monster.
Hospital Radio will be at us next.
Oh, right. Apologies. You can share our podcast. You'll hear Tom's podcast, so you can learn all about it.
No, it's not my podcast. It's the podcast of the show, and whoever's on it, it's theirs.
Okay.
But yeah, do get yourself along if you haven't already to your whatever podcast provider you have, if it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and just do a search for Saturday Drop-In. And how easy is it, Terry? Because
I just found it.
Just did it there.
Well, I think that's proof for Tom that if I can find it, anybody can. So that is how easy it is. You just Google it, or you don't Google it, you search it in I was on my Spotify, I put in Saturday Drop-In, and there's about 11 episodes.
Absolutely.
So I will be listening.
And some of them are good, some of them not so good. The ones we've got guest hosts are excellent. So
this one's
check
going
it
to be brilliant.
It's going to be
from
great
today.
Because I enjoyed that interview. It was good. I particularly enjoyed when you were interviewing people who are playing relatives of, like, descendants of yours, or
It gets very complicated.
It must be.
It really, really complicated. I do have identity crisis. Yeah. Yeah, oh dear me. Yeah, it's going to be a laugh.
Good stuff.
I've got a great wig. I'm doing a wig fitting this afternoon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to mention it during the interview, but I can maybe get you a railway watch that might be period based.
Oh.
I might have a wee railway watch that was passed down to me from family. So
right. So were your family railway?
No. My grandfather on my father's side, his connection to the railway was putting out fires caused by the railway. He was a forester, he was a head forester. And what would happen is as the steam trains went through, they would take off a thing called a spark arrestor. So obviously, and we've seen wildfires in the past few days, haven't we, with all the dry conditions. So the sparks, you would try your best to also not have the sparks coming out the steam train. And they had these devices that would prevent that, but it also impacted the performance of the train. Right. So the naughty drivers and firemen would remove these devices to get the train to perform better. But those sparks would, of course, if the woodland area was dry, it would spark. So my grandfather spent quite a lot of time putting out fires in the forest that he spent all his life planting.
As a child, I was obsessed by railways. If you ask any member of my family, they'll tell you stories. And we used to stay in the prefabs in Rothes, and if I stood on a table, I could see all the trains going past. We could see the railway line from the house. And I used to, when my mother took me maybe to Elgin or Aberdeen or wherever, I was obsessed, and I would often be said, I want a trainee book. I want a trainee book. And she used to take me up lanes and smack me because I just wouldn't stop saying it. Now, my memory of trains, and of course Beecham came along and he closed the railway in Rothes, but I remember going on a school trip age 14 to Belgium, and you know my memory is? I got on the train at Rothes and I got off in Belgium. Now, that was absolutely impossible because there was a boat involved, there was many changes of train, but that is my memory of it. I got on a train in Rothes and I got off at Belgium. And can't remember getting off or on, but I loved getting the train from Rothes to Elgin. It was just such a great big deal.
Well,
loved it.
With so I'm involved in the railway. I do drive trains from time to time, and I drive through Keith.
Oh, yeah.
So the approach to Keith's interesting because you've got the distillery warehouses either side of the track.
Yeah, that's right.
It was mentioned during your interview there that how important the railways were to the whisky industry.
Yeah.
Now it's not. Sadly, it's not now because when you go through Keith, we've got the passenger station, and there's no connection to the distillery. But you can see the old sidings, and you think that's where they've been loading them up onto the wagons on the trains to send it over the Scotland, UK, worldwide.
Yeah.
It's a shame it doesn't happen anywhere on the railway, but
and I'm
alas.
proud because in the play I am the owner, more or less, of Murrayshire Railway Company. So you've got me to thank for that.
Guys, and modest as well.
Absolutely. I know I am. I'm very modest.
But the thing is, what date is it? It's the 22nd of March. It's now spring. It's official spring because it's not the equinox. It's the.
And you know it was 19 degrees in Inverness yesterday.
No, it was not.
According to a report in Scotland last night, Inverness, it didn't feel 19 because the sun wasn't out, but it was very pleasant. So it's a taste of things to come. So, unfortunately, this weekend. No,
it's slightly changed. So maybe if you're in hospital, hopefully you get well soon and you're out and about. Terry's found a report that is the top 20 best visitor attractions in the UK. So we're going to go through a list and maybe we could come up with a holiday plan that we could come up with.
Let's see if any of us have been to this, Tom. I haven't really studied that, but they've just published the top 20 UK visitor attractions in 2024, along with the number of people that actually visited these attractions. So will I start at number 20?
Let's do it, yeah.
At number 20 is St Paul's Cathedral, and that only had 1.5 million visitors. I get it mixed up with Westminster Abbey. I think I have been in St Paul's.
It's the domed one, isn't it? It's near Bank Station, is it no?
Is that the Christopher Wren one?
I think it could
and
be,
I think we did a tour there and it was very interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Number 19, a lot of them are London, I'm afraid.
Yeah, obviously.
Barbican Centre. And that's an interesting place.
I've never been to it. It's because it's like a 60s architectural kind of style, isn't it? It's quite blunt. It's quite concrete and square.
But I think the flats that are actually built there are all 2 million, 3 million quid. Absolutely.
And I bet it's just like a wee one-bedroom flat
or
something.
Well, they are, but they've got amazing gardens and everything like that. And it's got a brilliant theatre. And I know we saw Jesus Christ Superstar there. The acoustics in the Barbican are second to none. It's just got the best sound. It's all wooden and really, really nice.
You like a train as much as I do.
Yes.
Do you know when they put the Elizabeth line in, it goes right underneath. Yeah. So they had to do special insulation to stop the sound vibrating into the auditorium, and they had to put special types of concrete and sleepers so that it made less vibrations.
For the Barbican?
For the Barbican,
yeah. Because there was no... my memory of... Because I used to work in London quite a bit, and my memory there was no tube station at the Barbican.
No. It's the wrong side of the river, isn't it? Yeah.
I think you had to walk quite a bit. So does that mean there is one now then?
The Elizabeth line goes there. I don't know if it stops.
Yeah.
But
Oh, well. Yeah, you go. National Portrait Gallery, 18th. And Westminster Abbey, 17th. The Royal Albert Hall. Now, that is great. That is 16th, and that was 1.7 million. Have you been to it?
I've not. Does that count for people going to see shows at it rather than just as a tourist attraction?
You presumably must be able to do behind the scenes, but I've been to quite a few things in there. One of the most memorable things that I remember... No, that wasn't there. But I have been. I remember getting my wife... It was indoor fireworks. It was like... 1812 overture, and it's an annual thing, and they'll let off fireworks in the middle of the performance.
All right.
Yeah, it's quite a sight. I'm delighted to say number 15, and one we've all been to, and I'm sure Henry's been as well. Edinburgh Castle.
Edinburgh Castle. Now, I've been inside it. Henry's not been inside it.
Right.
And that's not to do with the fact that we're tight-fisted and we'll not pay the money. Absolutely not.
It is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. But we've been up on the Esplanade.
Yes.
We went there last summer. We had a wee day trip around Edinburgh.
And I think if you're a member of, is it National Trust, I think, or is the other one? It could be the other one.
It's Historic Scotland.
Could be
that
Historic Scotland, and you'll get in, but you have to pay a bit of money for that. That is just under 2 million, Edinburgh Castle. Number 14 is the National Galleries of Scotland. That's just under 2 million as well.
Do you know, I've never been in there.
It's worth going in because it's free.
Yeah, it is, yes.
And they have just extended it, and it really is. I always think, nay for me, but you go in and you get engrossed with the wee stories about the picture. And then, you know what I mean? I like the stories behind it. It's a bit like, my wife dragged me to the Tapestry of Scotland in Galashiels. I thought, I'm doing a bit of this. It was fascinating, and it was all the wee stories that were behind each panels.
Can I just defend Anne here? Since she's not here to defend herself, I bet she did not drag you anywhere.
Well, no,
lovingly took
no, she
you to
promised
a
me
nice...
a lunch and a glass of wine. So yeah, there was always a good bit.
But, yep.
Number 13, the Greenwich Royal Museums.
Oh, that'd be quite interesting.
Yeah,
that would be good.
Great area. And Kew Gardens at 12. Went there for the first time a few years ago. Is definitely worth going to. The National Museum of Scotland at number 11.
That's the Chamber Street Museum, isn't it?
It's incredible.
Amazing.
These things are free,
yes.
isn't it? And you can just dip in. I can do about an hour of museums, and then I've got to go.
Oh, you could spend a
go
day
back
there.
A different day. You could.
I love going there. I can just sit. There's the big auditorium area.
Yeah.
And there's the clock pendulum, and I could sit there for that's my chill out zone. But can I tell you something about that? There's actually a piece of railway memorabilia that's in the Chamber Street Museum, and it's a railway signal. So as you come in, it's so tall that you're going underground now at the Chamber Street Museum, and you have to go up a level.
Aye.
So the signal starts there. It actually goes up about 3 levels because that's how high it is.
Right.
And it's a signal that used to be based at Stirling Station, and it was on platform 6. It was, without getting too terminology here, it was Stirling North's Stirling North's down home signal, right? And I used to stop my train at it. So trains that I used to drive, and I've stopped at that signal, and that signal is now in a museum.
And so where does it date back to?
Oh, well, it'll be date back when the railway was opened, when it was the Stirling and Kincardine and stuff, so it's 1860s, 1870s maybe. But yeah, it's just weird to know that there's something that I used to interact with on a near daily basis is now in a museum.
And you can sit beside it.
I can sit and watch it.
I used to stop
to
at
go
that.
there.
And you could say it loudly to whoever you're with, and then people will stop. Really? Did you?
Oh,
yeah. And then just put your hand out and see if they'll give you some money. Number 10, the Science Museum. We're back in London, I think. Number 9, the Tower of London. Definitely worth going
I've
to.
done it. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
You would only go maybe once because it costs a fortune to get in. Just under 3 million for that. Number 8, Somerset House. 3 million. At number 7, the National Gallery. That's the one in London, 3.2. They're obviously going to be London because there's more
numbers. Yeah.
Number 6, the V&A, South Kensington, 3.5 million. I don't know if you've been at the V&A in
was one in Dundee. I've not been to it, but I need to make a point of doing it.
Yes. Number 5, South Bank Centre, 3.7. Presumably that's just on the South Bank, and it's the theatres and everything, and I think that's what the South Bank Centre is, but maybe not sure. Number 4, Tate Modern, 4.6 million now. I went in and I just walked straight out again. It was a bit too modern for me. Number 3, Windsor Great Park, 5.6 million. At number 2, the Natural History Museum, 6.3 million. But with a whopping 6.4 million, it is the British Museum.
Yeah,
not
I can imagine it would have been.
Yeah. Because I suppose our top one is the National Museum. So obviously in England it's going to be the British Museum.
So if we're planning a journey, there's some ideas for us across the UK, mostly London, but it's all over.
Northern Ireland, the top site, I know you would know that, Tom, is the Titanic, which is brilliant. It's 35th. Would you believe, only 881 visitors. And in Wales, it's Cardiff's St Fagan's National Museum of History, and that's 600,000.
Well, we'll talk more about this in the podcast extras, but we need to wrap up today's show because it's fast approaching 2 o'clock. And it's time to reveal the answer to this week's Beat Detective. The question, or the clue, was an artist with 3 words. A young woman becomes acquainted with a young man. Would that be a boy who meets a girl? I think it could be boy meets girl. And the song with 6 words. Jings, doesn't it take a while for that sparkly thing in the sky to drop? Now, 8-year-old Henry, he got this one. He worked it himself. Not with knowing the song. He wouldn't know the song. Exactly. So that tells us that's our song for our Beat Detective. And the last song on the show today is Boy Meets Girl and Waiting for a Star to Fall. If you're in hospital, do get well soon. Take care of yourself. And wherever you're listening, do stick with Highland Hospital Radio. Terry will be back on Wednesday.
I will, yeah.
And I'll be back next week. Take care,
everybody.
Best. Bye.
Bye.
So that was this week's edition of the Saturday Drop-In with me, Tom Nelson, and Terry Henderson as well, our special guest host. Thank you very much for listening in. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. If you ever want to get in touch with us, you can just go to our social media pages. So, for example, BlueSky, you can go to Instagram, you can go to Facebook and send us a message there. If you want to send us something specifically for the Saturday Drop-In, email socials@hhr.scot. But to be honest, any way you can find sending a message to us, we'll get it eventually. Now, we had lots of fun with our guest of the year and our Beat Detective, and we had a great interview from Kate. Of course, during the podcast we had to cut out this or that because of the music element, but at the beginning of today's podcast, Terry Henderson set you some questions to dwell on. So have we got the answers to the questions, Terry?
Yeah, I did get carried away and asked you an awful lot of questions.
Yeah, exactly. He loves a quiz. He loves a quiz, does your Terry?
Yeah, one of the music excerpts you didn't hear was a classic. It was Diamonds and Rust by Joan Baez. Very much in the news just now because of the new film that's out about Bob Dylan's life. And I did ask the question, who played Joan Baez in that actual film? Well, the answer is Monica Barbaro. I think I pronounced that correctly. If I haven't, you get the idea. Now, I also named what was the name of the film, because the name of the film is a line from Bob Dylan's song Like a Rolling Stone, and the name of the film is a complete unknown. I also asked you who played Bob Dylan in that very film. His name is Timothy Chalamet. And also I referred to a documentary. It was made 20 years ago by Martin Scorsese, all about Bob Dylan. A 4-hour documentary, but well worth checking out. Also a line from Like a Rolling Stone, and it was called No Direction Home.
There you go. So that was your little extra podcasts, extra quiz, if you wanted to join in with that one. If you're a Bob Dylan fan, I'm sure you would have got all those.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe not the Monica Barbaro, which I probably pronounced correctly, incorrectly.
Also, we were talking about, well, last week Helen was on, and it was St. Patrick's Day, because we were going to talk about this. The show just runs away from us, and we run out of time. But you enjoyed St. Patrick's Day with our Helen.
I did, yes. I mean, luckily she's married to an Irishman, yes. Irish Jim we call him,
yes.
And he loves celebrating St. Patrick's, and he loves entertaining us, and we all go along and we do a wee turn. My turn is a rendition of Val Doonican's Walk Tall. Which is very relevant because I am quite small, but so everybody does take the you know what, so I don't mind. I'm past caring about making a fool of myself. So we enjoyed great food, great company, and a few wee babies.
I can imagine. Just a couple.
Helen was very, very annoyed though because I'd booked a taxi and she hadn't made. Well, I was more upset. I hadn't had my Irish coffee. And that was a real miss. She had it all laid out, and the taxi arrived, and the taxi driver would not change them. No. So we were not happy. And I wasn't popular because, we just run out of time.
That's it. That's like we did during today's show.
Exactly.
The good thing is you can listen again because Helen has done a St. Patrick's Day special with her husband, Jim. And you can listen again on that because it is on our catch-up service.
Yeah.
So go and do that.
A good listen.
Also today we spoke about your thespian side where you're doing your shows and you've got different people playing different members of your family, which is exciting.
Well, they're not my family.
Aye, but they're playing.
I wish I owned Glen Grant.
Well, you'd be doing
nice.
all right, yeah.
That would be, yes.
But there was one thing I wanted to mention. When we did the quiz a couple of weeks ago, we gave out long service awards. And I got to give you your 40-year long service award for Hospital Radio.
I know. I started when I was 10.
Because you didn't start Highland Hospital Radio. Where was it? Down south somewhere?
It was Southampton. Yeah, I started, and it was very strict back then. I know people can't see it, but there's 2 studios here, and there's a glass partition between them. But in those days, I sat behind the glass partition and did all the operating for the DJ or the presenter. They were like the kings and queens, and I was never allowed near them. So very much run along the BBC lines. You did the pips and the news and everything had to be done right. And when I started, I wasn't allowed to speak. You had to go through training and everything before you were ever allowed to speak on air. And the night I used to look out the records for the request show, and it was a maternity ward show. And these 2 ladies used to go around, and I just got to know them so well, and they loved my cute Scottish accent they kept going on. So they persuaded me one night to go on the show and read out the requests. Well, all hell broke loose. We were called up in front of the committee, and they got reprimanded, and so did I, and told never darken these doors again. Not the radio, but never ever present again. So when I joined Inverness Hospital Radio, my first night was with Duncan Fraser. I was on the Monday night show with him, and I arrived just before the show, and he threw these. Well, he didn't throw them. Duncan handed me the requests and say, "If you just read these out," and I said, "What, live? What, on air?" And he kind of just looked at me as if to say, "Well, what do you think you're doing here?" sort of thing. So it took me a long time. I was very shy and retiring back then. I bet you find that hard to believe.
I do find that hard
to believe. So I had 3 years in Southampton, and then I joined Inverness Hospital Radio in '88 when I moved here.
So that would have been at the RNI, the old studios?
It was the RNI, when the whole walls were covered in egg boxes just for the sound, and you never really knew whether you were on air or not. Sometimes it was a bit dodgy. There were some very embarrassing moments, and sometimes when you put your knee under the desk, there'd be a few sparks, some smoke now and again. And yeah, I was there very much in the years when all we were doing was fundraising to enable us to move here, which we did in 1998, so 10 years later. So there was lots of fundraising. We had a fire engine back then. We used to go out and do outside broadcasts, which were just great fun. Really, really good. But I do remember when I first joined, I was taken in the fire engine down to the Bacht, and there was a hockey match, and they just left me there. And I said, "What am I meant to do?" And they said, "Well, if you just commentate in the hockey match." I said, "I don't know anything about hockey." So I really was, it was really embarrassing and horrible, and I hated it. And they never did that to me again. But somebody drove the fire engine, dumped me in it, and just left me in it. Yeah. So I didn't go out ever on my own ever again. But yeah, the early days were such good fun, and we used to have jumble sales and all sorts of things to get money. And then we've moved to these great studios that are still much admired, aren't they?
Do you know what? It's the studios, we're so lucky to have them. What was provided in 1998 that everybody fundraised for back then, the members who were there. As someone who's only joined, very relatively recently, I'm absolutely delighted that they did, because this is the facilities we've got here are as good as any other.
And we're in a prime position.
Absolutely.
Rigmore, great landlords to have. Yeah, it's just superb. Yeah, it's a joy.
Well, if you ever thought about joining in with Hospital Radio, if you're ever like, I'm not sure what it's about, well, we're not so strict as to never let you talk. If anything, if you come in here and we'll bring you in on a Saturday, because we do wee training sessions, and you know what, if you want to pop in and say hello, you can. But the important thing is, it's not just about talking into the microphone. As Terry mentioned, fundraising there, but there's also loads of other things you can do. If you've got any IT side, we'll take you on and you can run all that for us.
Yeah. And if you want to go and talk to the visitor, the patients up in the hospital,
the ward visiting,
a joy.
It's an interesting one, because it's tough as well. of course there's so much positive you can get away, but obviously, people aren't well, and it's quite challenging when you go up into the wards. I've done it myself, and you go up and you've got people who are they don't want to be there.
No,
they're having a really horrible time of it.
Yeah,
but the good thing is you can sometimes go in and chat with someone, and you've really made their day.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of cracking ward visitors now, and Susan came in on Wednesday actually with 20 requests. 20!
You can't fit 20 in an hour.
No, you can't, and she's superb and obviously loves, and Mary as well, I should mention. And I think the patients just love to have a chat, and that's a lot to do with it as well.
And that's it, is being Raigmore Hospital being the sort of main hospital for the NHS Highland area means it will get people who are maybe from, up in Wick potentially coming down here, and they didn't have people nearby.
No. To visit them. So the ward visitors are so important. So many roles that you could get involved with here at Hospital Radio. So we'd love to have you along. Yeah. Well, Terry, I've loved having you along. This has been great. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I love it. Yeah, great show.
So next time you're appearing on stage somewhere, which will no doubt be very, very soon.
I don't know. I think this is a swan song, definitely.
Absolutely not, because what will happen is you'll go along to somebody's house, you'll have a few drams or something, and you'll say,
and I'll sign a contract.
I'll play Jesus and Jesus Christ Superstar. That's what I'll do next.
Oh yeah, well.
See, he's already thinking about it.
I've got to sing in this as well. That was kind of added, after I'd signed up for it. So I don't know the words of the song. I know all my words. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of words. As soon as I get to the rehearsal, they just go out the window. Because there's other people there, or they're doing things, or they're handing me something. Whereas when you're learning your words, you just learn the words. You're not really doing anything. But as soon as you stick a prop or something like that, you just, wait a minute, what do I say next? So, and then the songs I've got to learn. So I am going on holiday soon. So I have announced to my sons and my wife that, right, you're going to be my mother, you're going to be and you learn those words, and then you have to test me during the holiday, because it's going to happen as soon as I come back. So
get along and see it. The Spirit of Speyside Festival, and look for the Grants of Glen Grant.
That's the one.
Not the Glens of Glen Grant, which you might have heard at one stage.
Yeah, but it could be. It's in the Glens.
It's in the Glens. Yeah. Well, we'll say cheerio for now. Thank you again for listening. And, Terry, come back into the Saturday drop-in again soon.
I will, definitely. Try and stop me.
I hope not. Right, we'll say cheerio then.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Take care.